What's up everyone, I'm OBG for TastingSkills.com. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about Weller Special Reserve. This is the original wheated bourbon. Now let's talk a little bit of the history. First of all, Weller LaRue is the person that invented, or is said to have invented, wheated bourbon. He was a distiller, and the first release of wheated bourbon, as we know, was in 1849, but the Weller brand itself was actually invented by the Stitzel Distilling Company. Now, the Stitzel Distilling Company is famous for one thing, and that, of course, is Pappy Van Winkle. Now, Pappy Van Winkle was one of the three founders of that distillery, and also known as the Old Fitzgerald Distillery. Eventually, his two partners did pass away in 49 and respectively in 47. From that point on, Pappy had sole control of the distillery and making whiskey for 25 years until 1965, where he passed away. Several years after that, his son that took over sold it in 1972. Now, eventually the brand did bounce around and go from place to place, but Sazerac acquired Weller in 1999, meaning that now everything is done at the Buffalo Trace Distillery. Now, let's take a closer look at the full lineup, all of the Wellers that they do, and then we could actually look at the tasting notes. All right, let's get into it, starting with, of course, the one that I have in my hand, or also known as the Green Label. Now, this is at 90 proof and it retails on average between $50 to $70. Then we have the Weller Antique 107, or the Red Label. This is bottled at 107 proof and it retails between $100 to $200. Then we have the Weller Single Barrel Orange Label. Now, this bottle is proofed at 97 and this is a hard one to find. You'll be looking at retail about $1,000. Then we have the Weller Full Proof Blue Label. This is bottled at 114 proof and it's a non-chilled filtered. This retails between $300 to $500. Then we have the Weller 12-year-old, or the Black Label. Now, this is bottled at 90 proof and it retails between $250 to $350 depending on the market that you're in. Then we have the famous Weller CYPB White Label, and this is bottled at 95 proof. It was a one-time release and it is super hard to find. You'll pay between $600 to $1,200 depending on what market you're in. And then, of course, we have the famous William LaRue Weller. Now, this is part of the Antique Collection. It's an unfiltered and it's bottle proof, meaning that depending on the vintage, proof will change. And this one is $1,500 and up depending on which vintage that you're looking at. Now, the packaging on this is pretty simple. It's pretty classic. I mean, you do get the WL from the Weller LaRue. This is just classic, twist off, very simple. They're all pretty much the same except for the Antique Collection that is an actual vintage bourbon. Other than that, this is what we call wheated bourbon. This is really the definition of Pappy Van Winkle, because when we look at Pappy, he is famous for doing wheated bourbon. What does that mean? That means that he usually proofed it lower in the barrel at 114 instead of 125, and he switched out the rye for wheat. All right, so now let's take a closer look at the tasting notes. But before that, do you want to taste like a pro? Head over to tastingskills.com, put your name and email into the magical yellow box, and I will send you my free 17-page guide to the fundamentals of tasting. But also, if you'd like to get a fancy sober hat or a lovely sober t-shirt, then you can also go to the shop into tastingskills.com, and then when you're ready to check out, just put the code I'mOBG and shipping will be free. All right, now let's jump into these tasting notes, starting, of course, with the Weller, since there's only one today that we'll be tasting. On the collar, you get this deep amber with gold notes. The nose, high oak layers of caramel that are charred barrels that are deep aromas of oak, pine, vanilla, tobacco with a nice spicy clover, and it has some orange peels on it too. On the mouthfeel, rich, spicy oak tannins that turn into caramel. Oranges, that is complex and that delivers some really long spicy finish that lingers on until the acidity turns in and starts delivering more layers that gives you this super long finish. This special reserve was an absolute delight to drink. Yes, for $50 to $70, I could see this as a regular thing on my shelf. As I've covered all the previous ones that you saw there that are extremely expensive and extremely rare, there's a pure frenzy to collect these. Yes, they are good, but There's so many other things that you could buy out there. I really do love Weller, but my only problem with it is that people are just out of their minds when it comes to collecting them, and they will drink them, they will collect them, they will pay outrageous pricing, like the CYBP. Like, yeah, it's great, but to say that that's a $500 or $700 bottle of whiskey, that's pushing the limits. All right, that's gonna do it for me. I'm OBG for tastingskills.com. Please remember to smash that like button and go down there and subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell. Otherwise, my friend, please remember, stay sober. Peace.